I read this statistic that was so incredible that when Tom Brady went to his first Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes was 6 years old.
Yeah.
And there was that really neat moment actually after the game. I mean, Patrick Mahomes had not been shut down, not throwing a touchdown pass since 2018. I mean, that was a very unusual game for a quarterback who is so on fire offensively. But he went right up to Tom Brady afterwards and said, you know, you're awesome. Congratulations. There's a pretty good exchange. And Brady told him to keep in touch. I mean, it really is like this incredible veteran, best of all time. And, you know, they call him the young GOAT for Mahomes. We're going to see so much more from him.
Yeah, a very different game that we saw from the Chiefs side from what we had been watching all season long. So I think it was a shock to kind of see that score and how the play went down. But I mean, you have to give credit where credit is due. So Tom Brady more than deserves it. But, you know, also some of his teammates very, very hardworking and did a lot to make that outcome what it was last night as well.
Yeah.
Speaking of good team members, employees at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, they were among some of the many frontline workers that were invited out to the Super Bowl as honorary guests of the NFL. The league gave 7,500 vaccinated healthcare employees free tickets to the game. President Joe Biden and First Lady Dr. Jill Biden also made a video appearance before kickoff to thank them for their extraordinary service during the pandemic. And we don't want to forget this one. We love this update. The 12-year-old Tatum Johnson from Athens, he was also in the stands with his mentor, Zach Hendricks. Atlanta Falcons defensive tackle Grady Jarrett and the NFL surprised him with tickets after he lost his mother, his grandmother, and his sister in a house fire early this month. The two of them even got to meet Falcons owner Arthur Blank while they were down there in Tampa.
Wow, what a sweet picture.